that 20 to 25% of the cost of a new home is government regulation.
They put that in their, they released their objectives.
So,
Yeah.
so they're the government.
Yeah.
And so they are contributing 20 to 25% of the cost of a new home. And they're still going to this TIF, these TIF bills to address the issue. And it doesn't make any sense. They are the government. They know, speaker said in that meeting that it was 20 to 25% of the cost of a new home was government regulation. And yet this is their solution. I don't want to say it's their only solution, but I haven't seen any bills reducing the amount of government regulation in the building of a new home. So anyway, we did start today, it went very smoothly. Those bills I just described, I think it's Senate Bill 23 and 26.
Yes.
Both passed out of the Senate today and are on the way over to the House. Hope we, I don't know if you saw them yet, Leon, but we need to look at them quickly because it sounds like they're greased just like they did vouchers a couple of years ago. And usually when they start moving bills like this at the beginning of the session, it's because they don't want them to be very closely scrutinized, which means obviously we need to scrutinize them very carefully. And what else? We want to talk about the committees.
Mhm.
You need to talk about.
Just, I mean, is it just a follow-up now that you've actually seen the tracker? It came out today and you got a preemptive one, like a pre-session one on Friday. Is it working for you? Do you understand it? Any follow-up questions for us on that? It's okay. Any follow-up for it? We've got
We got 6 bills in committee tomorrow afternoon.
just a lot on the tracker already. It's almost, somebody asked me today, one of the lobbyists in the lobbyist lounge said, I never print out a tracker. It's why I don't do a tracker because it takes a lot of work. And I said, how many bills do you track? And he said, oh, we usually track 5, 6. And I said, we track over 200. And he's like, oh. Got it. So, that it's already a lot, but that's okay.
One thing I would point out to you, the committees, especially that we've never seen a House Education Committee like the one we have in this legislature. Everyone on that committee, if you talk to them, would say and sincerely mean that they are very much pro public education. So I hesitate to classify them as anti-public education, but quite a few people on that committee see public education quite a bit differently. People in this room do. I'll just leave it at that. And some of them radically so. Especially some who will be serving in their first term. I don't know if you guys remember when Susan Pulsper was first elected to the legislature, they wouldn't add her to the Public Education Committee because, that's one of their most important committees, and usually you have to serve in the legislature for a couple of terms before you can get on that committee. One of these people that was serving there was just appointed to this committee, has never even been elected to the legislature and has now been appointed to this committee. So, things are changing at our legislature in a pretty fundamental way. We've always had, at least in the House and usually in the Senate, we've always had a House committee where we had a fighting chance. And it's becoming less and less. So
Yes,
put it as diplomatic
very diplomatic.
as I can. Is there anything else or question? Any questions? You guys have any questions for us?
Yeah.
Well, just thank you for your work.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Fewest questions you guys have ever had.
No, I got it going.
Just make one comment. I think recently through a mutual contact, I reached out to the auditor's office, about a question regarding the Utah Fits All scholarship. And because my question was, in talking to some of the new legislators, I asked them, do you know what the data is about? Know how the money is being spent? I've heard different things across, some of the chatter on the internet about, grand pianos being purchased or purchased with the money or other things that are inappropriate use of the money. And the answer that came back from the auditor's office is that it is, I knew it was a private entity out of Colorado that's been administering it. But because it's a private entity, we are not able to grandma that information. So this whole thing
Are
was,
they subject to an audit?
nor they, well, they audit technically, but they get the reports that are given to the legislature. And the only thing is how much money was spent and very loosely how it was used. So they are under a veil of secrecy, I would say, and I think that it's pretty deliberate and that, you know, because they're the legislature and they've made this legal, it's legal. So I think as board members, when we talk to our legislators, I mean, to me, it's maddening because of the kind of transparency we are required as a public entity to have with the public tax dollars. And the fact that this money has literally zero transparency, I think is abhorrent. And they knew it when they put it in the details of that bill and refused to allow legislators to read it over a weekend to ascertain that.
Zero transparency and zero accountability.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you. That was very quick and.
The shortest one you ever do.
Yeah. So thank you both.
There are 6 bills in committee that tomorrow afternoon, so
Okay,
And if
we
you,
are hitting the ground running.
and if you read any and you say, why is that not on the hot list? Just text us and we'll look at it and examine it and probably put it on the hot
Probably
list.
put it on
So,
the hot list, yeah.
but just let us know if you see any that you think should be there that we've missed.
okay. Thank you both.
Yep.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Cottonwood Heights CDRA amendment, first reading, and Leon Wilcox, business administrator, will lead us in this item.
Thank you, President Chair. Let me just start off by introducing, this is Mike Johnson. He is the, Community Development Director for Cottonwood Heights City. And next to him is, Chris McCandless. He is a former, city councilman for Sandy City, back when the district was split. Some few minutes ago. So, what we want to do, what they brought to us and for your review and if so, eventual approval is an amendment to the CDRA that we have with Cottonwood Heights City. Let me just do a quick 30-second overview of what a CDRA/TIF, tax increment financing, I'll probably use that word, about it is about, okay? We'll throw that out quite a bit. Maybe we ought to have a study session, get some people caught up on this at a future meeting. But for property taxes, everybody under the state's constitution, everybody has to pay property taxes. Nobody's free of that duty. So when you own property, it's taxed. Now, where the tax dollars go can be subject to certain types of agreements. So, you know, everybody, we all own, most of us in this room own a house. And the city where we live in, the county we live in, the school district where we reside, collects property taxes. And that goes to that respective entity, okay? But sometimes what they can do is they can create what we call a TIF agreement. And usually that's going out and blocking off a section of property for some type of redevelopment. And then what happens is you go out and you calculate what that base year or when that property you're going to start developing, what that value is worth. And then you go all along a period of time and they build up or redevelop that area. And during this time, this blue area, the property taxes are still generated. You know, people are still paying property taxes, but they go to help pay for the development of that area. So they don't go to the school district. They go to the city, who then pays off bonds or other things related to that development of it. And then after the project ends in the period of time, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever is negotiated, then the property value is again up higher. it's gone and been developed and increased, then all the money, all the future property taxes go back to the entities, so the county, the school district, the city. So does that make sense? Just a quick 30 flip notes version here. So what happened, what's gone on is back in 2012, so way back when, I don't know, none of you were even here at the time. Yeah.
Never mind.
Never mind. The board entered into a CDRA, what we call the Canyon Center CDRA with the city. So our agreements are only with the city. The city has a subgroup, a CDRA redevelopment quasi entity, and that's who the agreement is with. So we agreed to this back in 2012. In 2018, Amber would have been here at that time. We made an amendment to the CDRA at that time. Just so, again, the property that's being redeveloped here is the old racquetball club area back there. So just to give you an idea, well, Union going east-west, Wasatch right there. This would be the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon right here, this road going up the canyon. Then just off to the side is the redevelopment area here. There's a 7-Eleven here, right? Porcupine Restaurant right there. So if you get the idea where this is at. So we agreed to this development. So they started it in, part of the agreement was in 2018 was they would start doing what they called the trigger date in 2021, which occurred then. So the value's gone up quite a bit since then, since we started the whole thing way back in 2012. It was 3.8 million. Gone up to 56 million, which is what we expect to happen, expects to generate property tax dollars that way. Well, 1,300+% based on the value of 2024. And also in between here, we've been negotiated as the value goes up, they get 70% of what we call the increment or that increase in value of the property taxes, and the school district gets 30%, okay? So it's shared that way. So they don't get it all in this new area. We get technically 30% of that. And so then this one of those agreements that goes out a ways, it goes out to 2047. So just to give you an idea of what we've already agreed to in previous boards with that, okay? So one of the things that they brought to us to look at is what they call a land use requirement on what we agreed to, and then making a change to that. Back in here, they have various phases of what they would do. So they wanted to build a hotel, which is the Courtyard Hotel, right? They have a couple restaurants, the Eat Settlers Restaurant, which I had on the previous slide, and what is that, Seola Restaurant. They have a large parking structure used for parking to get as a pickup up and down during the ski season. And then one of the things they brought to us back in 2018 was put on single family homes. Now, we really don't like single family homes in these areas because one, they bring in kids and we're not getting the property taxes, which we want the kids, but we're not getting the property taxes to educate the kids. So that's why we don't, in our policy, we say no single family homes. But so what we agreed to at that time is they would pull these are 17 homes out of that, and this district would get the full property taxes for those 17 homes, okay? And then they were supposed to build an office building about 83,000 square feet. And then they saw the apartment complex is going to be built on that as well. What they are proposing is, we all know what the commercial building market has done over the last several years. Everybody working from home have to build a commercial building. So what they are proposing is to substitute the commercial building with 36 condos. Now, again, condos may bring us kids, they may not. We'll see, but part of it is they would pull that out as well. So we would collect the full property taxes on the condos. That would not be part of the TIF agreement. So back in 2018, when the office building came and we agreed to this. They thought the office building would be worth about 17 million. Again, prices, this is 2018, prices have all gone up, skyrocketed since then. They're estimating the value of these condos will be about 21 million, give or take, when they're built out. Keep in mind, as condos, as with your own individual house, only 55% of that value is taxed. The other 5% is exempt from property tax. Okay, so that's, instead of being maybe 35, 36 million, that's why it's 21 million there. They hopefully be completed 28, 29, along with that apartment building. So then on, what they're looking for approval is the amendment to the plan, which there has been two amendments, a second amendment and a third amendment. They're all out on board docs with the red line there, what they're looking to change. And then what we had agreed to is the interlocal agreement, which references those two amendments again that are on board docs. The ILA is also on board docs for either. That's the long and short of it. So long and short, we're looking to replace the office building with 36 condos. We're looking at it as pretty much a net even, break even thing. The office building, 20 million, the condo is worth about 20 million. We collect the same amount of property tax on both. So that's, we feel okay with it. The other cities wanted to bring something to us that had housing, probably make the same requirement of them that they got to pull those individual houses out. Because again, they probably bring students if we want the property taxes to help. Any questions for me or Mike, Chris?
So just to better understand, so we're swapping, but that gets pulled out and we'll get the full tax on that instead of the office building, we had agreed to delay.
The office building, they get 70%, we'd get 30%.
Okay.
So we actually come out faster.
Right.
Long term, probably break even, but yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Mrs.
The
Nyberg?
single family homes is staying the same. They're not
Yeah.
increasing.
Those single family homes that have been built, they were built 6-8 years ago, right?
They were like the first thing done,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've been up there for quite some time, so they will still be the same. We'll still collect the property taxes off of it.
And no consideration to convert the office building space to single family homes instead of,
Oh, the office building is
It'll
going.
be the condos.
I know, so just,
That space there.
It's on top of the parking structure. It's a podium, so it'll be.
Okay. thanks.
There's no
Other questions?
questions. We could look to bring this back. You could almost go on a consent agenda if you want. We don't have to decide that right here, right now, but for the fourth meeting or not.
Is everyone okay to bring this back on consent?
Yes.
Sound good? Good point. Okay,
All right,
thank
thank
you, Leon.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item is the 2025 Board of Education graduation assignments, and Dr. McKay Robinson, Superintendent, will present it.
So earlier I was joking about not having a suit coat on, and the real reason, to be honest now, it's because I know how passionate we've been about this, and I'm here to appreciate all arm wrestling, so. Which said, I don't know if you had a chance to pick one of these up or if it's in your folder. I do
It's
have.
in our folder.
several copies.
It's in our folder.
And you
So,
emailed it.
Really, this just comes down to, we have as much information as we can possibly gather for tonight. The only one that we are unaware of at this time is the Life Skills Academy in regards to their theme. But other than that, we know who speaking from it, as well as the location, the date, and then the approximate number of graduates. You will notice that on the locations that we have down at UVU instead of the University of Utah. As those of you that have been on the board the last few years have known that it's been very difficult to work with the University of Utah in that particular area with graduations, not in other areas, but that's why we've made that switch. We have also been talking with the Maverick Center in hopes that we could possibly get it all at the same location for all of our schools. They
Maybe in 2 days.
would have to be 2 different days. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for you to be thinking about. We do have it scheduled on the end of the 2026 year is the last, meaning graduations taking place in the last week. And we would just want to look at if we're willing to have it on 2 different days, what 2 schools would be on one of the days, what 3 schools would be on the other, and we could make those arrangements, but we would want to start making those arrangements with Maverick Center pretty quickly. That makes sense. But they've been willing to do it. But as for this year, this is where we will be and on the dates and the times for each school. And so really, I just need you to let me know where you would like me to place your names in regards to who will be attending which one and who will be the speaker at that particular.
So let's just go down the list, McKay, and then also just board, I just want to remind you that only one board member speaks. And they've asked us to be as short as possible. I will tell you that I got the most compliments when the talk was like 1 minute. So they really don't, like, I promise, they don't care. I mean, you know, they don't care. They don't know who we are. They just want us to be done. Yeah, so shorter is better. Just keep that in mind. No 15-minute speeches, please. And just remember, we're the guest of the school plans this, so we go along with their schedule and their plan.
Perfect. So should we start with Alta? Who wants that?
And whose turn is it to speak?
I'll be attending, but I have a daughter graduating from Corner Canyon this year, so I speak at Corner.
So Amanda, who wants to speak then at Alta?
I can.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else will attending Altas?
No, let's get them settled first and then.
Okay.
Okay.
How about Brighton?
I would like to speak at Brighton.
Phoebe wants to speak. I will attend. I'd say it's Katie's turn.
Yeah.
Oh, I did last year.
I've got one graduating too, so.
It's
Oh,
really
fun.
fun. Okay.
Can you remind me? Is it DAHLE?
Right.
When you say it Dolly, you guys, I'm just gonna help you. 'Cause there's a lot of different ways to say.
There are a
that
lot of different
spelling, I'm just saying, and I did ask her.
So I have
LLY.
Amanda down as speaking at Corner, at least we made that request. We're good there. Is anyone else planning on attending?
I'll attend.
And then that takes us to Hillcrest.
I would like to speak. My sister's graduating.
Okay. I would like to attend. Been to Hillcrest in a long time and I love it, so.
Attendee.
No,
I'll also attend.
last year at Alta, Karen, Lee and I were all.
For the
Yeah, It
future,
was awesome.
I'd love to speak at Hillcrest someday, but before you said what you said, I also thought you should speak just because it was extra cool. But now you've got like double the reason.
We had the Queen of Ghana last year and we got Jackson. Standard. Awesome.
Whoever follows you, Jackson, I did not. I did that. So we have Jackson speaking, President Schill and Andrew also attending. Okay. Jordan High School.
I always like Jordan. We always fight over Jordan, so.
Whose turn is it to speak?
We both spoke
We
last
both
time.
spoke last time.
Well, I guess it's rock, paper, scissors.
It's against the rule.
No, because we had,
I'm just kidding.
had,
I'm just kidding.
last year too, we had some cabinet speakers not speak. That's why we had 2.
Okay, so who's speaking? Andrew then? Who that- what you said?
When he doesn't succeed, then I just.
So can we do that? Can we make that agreement?
Yeah, sure. It's okay with me.
I will have a
We have, like,
grandson who's gonna graduate,
Me.
but not this year,
Next year.
Next year?
next year.
Oh, that's perfect.
Well, maybe 2 years. It takes a minute to get through high school.
I bet Andrew would work with you even if.
He does work with me. In fact, the very first time he was supposed to speak, he got sick. So I was given the opportunity to give his talk. So I stepped in. Which is
Picture
fine.
this there.
Yeah, it worked. It was great. It's great.
So Andrew and Karen, anyone else want to attend or?
So Andrew will speak. I'll be there.
Perfect. Diamond Ridge.
I claim one. I like Diamond Ridge.
Was that the day?
That's my
before?
school. I don't care what day it is, because it doesn't matter.
At Alta.
Yeah.
We just don't have a time on it.
No, it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Is it usually at night?
It's a night.
Yeah, it's usually.
Diamond Ridge and Entrada, I like doing those.
Karen
Okay,
just volunteered
so
for both of
Karen-
them.
I
Karen,
do, I like doing them.
Are you speaking for Diamond Ridge and Entrada, is that what you said?
I can. Someone arm wrestle.
I would like to go to one of them. Can I go to Diamond Ridge? Is that okay? Karen, you go ahead and speak.
I'll speak. It's really short. They don't pay any attention to what you're saying.
I may be out of town. Entrada.
They're funny. The one that listens to you the very least is life skills. I'll just tell you that.
Entrada have
Most entertaining one.
But Entrada didn't have a board speaker.
They may not. That's why I said both, because Entrada,
It's fine, don't worry about it.
I did, I mean,
I can do a follow-up. Do you want on Karen and then let you know if they're?
for Diamond Ridge and Entrada.
Okay. Anyone else planning on attending Entrada with Karen?
Okay, what day is it?
I'm gonna be out of town.
I know, I may be out of town too, so I
Out of
don't,
town.
it's June 12th.
It's
So
a whole-
I should
I always
be able to do it. There's a potential I might be out of town, but
We'll kind of put
I'll be
you
around.
in parentheses.
Obviously.
then.
And
I would like to attend Jordan Valley. I've never been able to.
I want
go
to attend
that.
Jordan Valley.
I don't necessarily have to speak. Mont did the speaking.
Want-
it's
Awesome.
Jordan Valley's awesome.
I've never been.
Everybody wants to go. Nobody's speaking. So, I don't know.
Do we usually have a speaker?
I don't think, no.
Gonna say, I don't know if it's.
Is it fine if we don't? have a speaker?
Yeah, Nate's been the only one that has.
I was gonna say, it's one of those where you're going,
Okay, Karen, Holly. Jack.
They're usually talking about like 4 or 5 graduates at the most.
that's 3.
Yeah, oh, is that how many? Oh, yeah, so I mean, it's not very long.
It's just like tiny. Okay, we won't speak. It's
so
fine.
4 of you though?
Or,
Right.
I just never been able.
I know, I haven't.
I've
I've never been
gone
able
to, so I
to
think
either
it'd be-
because
I have
usually
wanted
they're
to
after.
go, And for some reason,
It's nice.
something happens.
Me too. It's nice that it's before and it's on a Friday. Before they.
Can you send us calendar invites?
Yep. Happy to do that.
Do you mind?
Nope, not at all.
We have
That
speakers
would be
in
awesome.
life skills.
Okay, the life skills.
We can just have people go.
I didn't.
Sometimes, well,
I know,
let's just say,
once and I
Nancy
think
and I
that's
both
so
came,
fun.
have taken a speech, but it's really short.
Yeah, Karen spoke last
I
year.
did speak last year and I'll do it again if you'd like. I don't mind.
I'll attend that
They're
one.
fun to play with.
My skills.
We had it in the auditorium.
I'm hearing here.
Karen and Katie. Karen, will you speak? Or-
Sure.
Let's do something short. I
It's
don't
just really,
know.
they don't,
Sometimes they don't want us to speak.
and sometimes they say no and then go, okay, all we do is pass out their things, but I don't have a major school, so next year, you know what I mean, a big school.
Comprehensive high school.
I can
Comprehensive
attend
high
the,
school.
the Alta one with Holly if you need. If you need to talk about it, I'm sure it's good.
You guys are always, hey, you're always welcome to replace administration too. Like we have done this millions of years. So like if you want to speak at one of those high schools, Karen, and replace me, you're welcome to.
I'll think about it.
I will say, Karen, to your point, when we were talking about Life Skills Academy, I felt like that one was pretty powerful for the parents.
It
If
was.
that makes sense. And so it's really nice for them.
Okay, good.
As long as we keep it short.
Just really short, but it's a good one.
That's one where the parents, I think.
It's really fun.
They're sweet kids.
So I
we
think.
didn't have an accompaniment. Is Holly, the only one at Alta?
No, that's me.
Amanda.
Oh, Amanda.
Yeah.
And then Katie, were you also?
Yeah, I can go or I cannot go. It doesn't,
I don't know, Katie, you mean? I'll just sit you up with that, but I'm just
okay,
saying.
I'll
Cause-
I'll just let go.
Now, last week is crazy.
Oh,
It's crazy.
Or I just,
For the-
I don't think you should do but if you really wanted that time, but you're just gonna be busy.
But you're in 2 different spots, yeah, because if you're gonna be at the Maverick and then the other ones
Yeah.
that you go.
Down there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, well,
you don't wanna do that.
You don't want to park it.
But if you really do, I'm not gonna
It's fine.
stand in your way.
Well, then Amanda and Holly are both down there anyway.
Yeah.
You see, you.
And then you just hang out.
Is it okay if I just go through them again really quickly, just to make sure I've got them all?
That's great.
So at Alta, we have Amanda and Holly, with Holly speaking. At Brighton, we have Katie and President Schill attending with Katie speaking. Corner Canyon, Amanda and Holly with Amanda speaking. At Hillcrest, I have Jackson, President Schill and Andrew with Jackson speaking. Jordan, I have Andrew and Karen with Andrew speaking. Diamond Ridge, I have Karen and President Schill with Karen speaking. Entrada, Karen, and possibly Amanda,
Yeah, I'm attending, yeah.
or let's see, Entrada. I'll find out for you if they're speaking or not.
I just come prepared just in case.
And what, is that the one that doesn't?
Entrada's really fun.
Diamond Ridge is the one that doesn't have the time.
Yeah, and I'll make sure I get that figured out as well for you all. And then at Jordan Valley, we will be pleased to have President Schill, Holly, Karen, and Jackson. And then Life Skills Academy, I have Karen speaking and Katie attending.
Good fun graduate.
That, okay, I will get the Google Doc updated and then I'd be more than happy to send you all invites.
Thank you. Perfect.
Okay.
I really doubt it.
Anything else you need?
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank
You all. Oh, just let us know as well. Did I tell Tom to do the next year at UVU? Sorry, yeah.
I think it'd
We
be
not
cool
want-
if all is one.
No, what are you gonna say? Then on 2 different days, because you can't do, you can only do 3.
You can only do 3 in one.
2 and 3.
I love the Maverick Center.
I know, I do too.
I don't think any kids are gonna be sad to graduate a day earlier. They'll be jealous if
What
whoever.
about a day later?
Did you? You like
Well, we'll
it?
just have to rotate it. Why don't we just figure out a rotation?
UVU is okay, but it's not like
But
amazing.
then it's like.
Well,
you
we
gotta
all have to
drive.
drive down.
Huh?
Parking's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare down there. Yeah, I think
They
that is the strength of the Maverick Center. You don't have to worry about.
What?
parking.
Gone are the days of doing graduation at the school. I love that.
Part of the reason why they went away from it is that Alta had a graduation outside
Right.
and
Lightning.
lightning struck.
Right.
It didn't hit the student, but it hit the ground between the photographer and the student.
I asked that because.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Last year it would have been bad because it was.
Yeah, and you can't ever tell what the weather's gonna be like.
Problem is the weather is a problem. And I know it was in the paper, it was a big deal, I know, and then we didn't, but then when COVID hit, we did the drive-through.
Right,
And
and that was,
then the year after COVID, we actually did do a cool,
Jordan did one outside after.
Corner Canyon did too. And the feedback from the community was, if the weather, it's hard because of weather, but it is amazing, because that's where all the kids.
Seating is not as good
It is fun.
at stadiums.
Would you guys be okay to, at both sites, if we just had a small hospitality room with just some waters and
Yes.
sodas and
Yes,
I just, I mean, by the time
please, yes.
halfway through the,
It's
I've,
exhausting. I don't know how you.
Go take a nap.
2 is exhausting.
I just thought if we had a room that maybe had some light snacks and some waters and
That'd be great.
just so,
Great idea.
because we have a lot of staff there too, right? That were there. You know, everybody, a lot of people in this room are there pretty much the whole day. So
I think that's right.
neither venue ever provides that. And I noticed that last year.
Yep.
I'm just like, man, it's so hard even to get a bottle of water. And if you want to leave, you got to walk to those
And then the parking.
restaurants and then you're
And
Yeah.
facing it. And so anyway, okay, we'll set that up.
It's great. Okay.
Sorry to hound, but am I asking Tom to pursue that?
We can pursue it.
I think
so.
It's possible. I do think he looked into it this year. He told me.
He did,
But
yep.
it was already booked. That's why we couldn't do it. That's why we had to do UVU, so.
I think our community would prefer to be closer to home
Is it closer? I think it's 6.
than UVU.
Well, maybe for corner.
Maybe for you, for Alta and Corner, it's.
But I think
six.
Corner-
I think
I don't think
Maverick is
it's
still
faster.
closer.
Yeah, I don't think Maverick's close.
It's 20 minutes.
I think it's probably about 6. Probably.
Well, anyway.
I think it's a question of the venue, honestly. I mean, I've been in the very first graduation I spoke at for Corner Canyon was in UVU. It's not as nice as Maverick Center. I think if you're looking at venues.
It's so nice to work with as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just have him kind of pursue that and then we'll.
Great, okay, board, thank you, and we will start business at 7. Thank you for keeping this meeting on time too, board. Thank you.
First session and we had important things to.
Hillcrest.
Okay, welcome to the business meeting of the Canyons Board of Education. Today is January 21st, 2025, and we're meeting at the district office located at 9361 South, 300 East in Sandy, Utah. The first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda for January 21st, 2025.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is to have the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have Principal Mariel Rall from Brighton High School here, and she will do the Pledge of Allegiance, then share some school highlights.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, board members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak about my amazing school, Brighton High. It's a privilege to share just a glimpse of what makes our school such a special place. First and foremost, I have to highlight the incredible teachers and staff at Brighton. Their dedication is unmatched. From our custodians who come in on Sundays to ensure our sidewalks are clear of snow and ice, to our secretaries who greet every student with a warm smile, to our teachers who spend countless hours of their own time helping students succeed. Brighton High is filled with people who genuinely care about every student who walks through our doors. Brighton continues to excel academically. By the end of last year, we had given 756 AP tests, and we achieved a 100% pass rate in several rigorous subjects, including literature, research, seminar, physics 2, and U.S. government. And in other advanced courses, we maintained remarkable pass rates of over 90% in biology, calculus AB, calculus BC, chemistry, and U.S. history. These accomplishments reflect the talent and hard work of both our students and the educators who support them. Of course, it's not just about academics at Brighton. We shine in every area. At the end of last year, our baseball team made it to the state finals. Our boys lacrosse team were the 5A state champions. And this year, our football team had an incredible season, making it all the way to the state playoffs at the University of Utah. Our arts are outstanding as well. The theater department has had a year to remember. I'll never forget the energy and fun of Matilda and my favorite scene, Miss Trunchbull marching around the stage singing the phys ed song. But there was success before this. Our theater program was recognized at the Shakespeare Festival as well. Brighton students earned second overall ensemble scene, first place in the Tech Olympics for props, fourth overall in the Tech Olympics for sound. Additionally, one of our juniors brought home the Larry L. Lott Acting Award, the festival's highest honor. Her portrayal of Coriolanus. This is the second consecutive year that a Brighton student has won this prestigious award, an incredible achievement. Brighton High is more than a school. It's a community of learners and achievers. Whether on stage, on the field, or in the classroom, our Bengals consistently rise to the occasion, making all of us proud to call Brighton our home. Thank you for supporting our students and teachers and for celebrating these achievements with us. Go Bengals!
Okay, thank you, Marielle. I love to hear about Brighton, and I feel super passionate about it. So I know it's a great school, and I really appreciate all you do and all your staff does. I loved it when I was shadowing a student that day, and just talking to the different teachers and even the hall monitors. They had been there like a long time, like how long? 6 years? I don't know, but they loved it, and they just loved talking to the kids and helping them. So I really appreciate you. So the next item on the agenda is the Canyon Strong recognitions, and Jeff Haney, Director, and Kirsten Stewart, Associate Director of Communications, will present that.
Thank you, President Schill, for this time granted to us during board meeting to honor those who are truly Canyon strong. And it's been a fantastic start to the year. We are excited about the possibilities of 2025. Now, the first images you'll see here during tonight's recognitions are of current and former students who spent Monday, January 20th, honoring what is good and great about America. That's the peaceful transfer of presidential power and our country's guarantee of civil rights for all of our citizens. First, you'll see here a group of students from Brighton High School. They represented Canyon School District at the Salt Lake chapter of the NAACP's 41st Annual Memorial Luncheon to honor the landmark contributions of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. Canyon's district sponsors a table so our students can participate in this event and have this educational opportunity on a day reserved for remembering our principles of equality and respect and love for our fellow man. And next, we want to point out this shot that was forwarded to us today. It is of Jordan High graduate Midshipman Thomas Johnson, who is part of the Beat Digger Naval Cadet Corps program when he was at Jordan High School. As you can see there, Midshipman Johnson was part of the military choir that performed at the presidential inauguration on Monday. And what a fantastic memory for Midshipman Johnson, a proud beat digger to have. The Canyon Strong start to the year for students is great, and it's also great for our employees. We kick off our recognitions tonight by emphasizing an honor that was announced nationally last week. Canyon's district is the proud home of the National Girls Tennis Coach of the Year. So Brighton High's longtime tennis coach Natalie Meyer was announced last Monday as one of the top 24 prep coaches in the entire country. This was announced by the National Federation of State High School Associations. Now, Coach Meyer, who is actually a Bengal herself and a former University of Utah tennis player, is the only coach from a Utah school to be selected as a National Coach of the Year. So congratulations to Coach Myers. Now, good for us. She tells us that she has no plans to retire soon, even though she's been an educator for 35 years. Now, she tells us that she loves teaching, she loves coaching, and that interaction with students and student athletes keeps her young and raring to go for another tennis season. Now, winners are chosen after a nomination process and an application window, and as we all may know, the Brighton High tennis program is one of the most successful in Utah for both boys and girls. Tennis aces have brought home dozens of team and individual state titles underneath Meyer. So congratulations to Natalie, once again, the National Girls Tennis Coach of the Year. And we also want to spend a few moments honoring the contribution of Gary Hansen, Canyon's district's purchasing director. He's retiring at the end of this month. And Gary was one of the very first employees hired in Canyon School District in the fall of 2008. He was part of the startup team that helped launch the district, even from its first days. He was part of that small group of employees. Leon was there, I was there, a few others were there. We huddled up around electric heaters in that first winter in our first headquarters, which was the old Cottonwood Heights Elementary School, which has since been torn down. Gary was one of the group of people who was hired to start this district, and we're very grateful for his contributions. Since that time, in 2008, from computers to crayons, Gary has ordered it all. His number one priority is to make sure schools have what they need when they need it. Now, we know that can be quite a task, but more than 40 years of experience buying everything from toilet paper to toothpicks, he has definitely been up to the challenge. Now, like I said, later this month, Gary is retiring and taking with him that years of experience, and he's also taking with him a lot of great memories. His reward has been seeing students sitting in new chairs and knowing that his department has made it happen. If Canyon's district has it, Gary's department has probably bought it. He has fielded requests from lawnmowers to leaf blowers to snow blowers to pencils and everything else under the sun that help our schools and our departments run. And he does it all by following government requirements for using public funds. And always in the back of his mind, Gary, who we know was the 2019 Apex Award winner for District Administrator of the Year, he considers how to make every dollar count, no matter what the request. He's also always willing to chip in when needed. You'll see him with his shirt sleeves rolled up, and he's often carrying tables and chairs at all of our events. So thank you, Gary. Because of his contributions, Canyons has succeeded in so many ways, and that's why we want to mention Gary Hansen as a Canyon Strong employee. Please join me and all of us in wishing Gary well and also so much thanks for his contributions to the success of Canyon School District. Now, what would we do without our fixers, especially in plumbing and power? Now, when we don't have water and we don't have power, we find out really quick how much we need them. Our Canyons District facility fixers, those are the employees who rush to fix the broken water lines here at the district office, and also to address the power outage of a Jordan High School that forced the early release of school for the day. These are the workers who are the epitome of Canyon Strong. These guys responded so quickly and worked so professionally on the Jordan power outage. Those are Casey Hart and Jordan Maines in electrical, and Dan Hughes and Zach Lindgren in HVAC. The facilities fixers who worked hard to get a broken water line to the district office last week are Cody Scheme and Bo Waters. Their work was truly Canyon Strong, and we truly appreciate them. Now, next up, we want to wish good luck to our cheer squads who are competing at the state competition. Competitive cheer season culminates this week with the state competitions, and we wish the Bengals and the Chargers much luck in the 6A and the 5A competitions. Corner Canyon has won this competition since it became a sanctioned sport by the Utah High School Activities Association 2 years running. And we're cheering for both the Chargers and the Bengals to bring home the state title hardware. So consider us the biggest cheerleaders of our cheerleaders. Tune into the Canyons Connect podcast tomorrow. We sat down with Coach Whitney Lunt from Corner Canyon High School and 3 of her senior captains to talk about cheer, competitive cheer, and how these student athletes have to go into the weight room to lift like offensive linemen, have to have stamina like wrestlers, have to tumble like Olympic gymnasts, and basically know how to dance like even the best choreographers who are up on the stage with pop stars like Lady Gaga and Britney Spears. They are ultimate athletic competitors through and through, and we wish them much luck. So President Schill, thank you so much for this time, for the Canyon Strong recognitions. We turn the time back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haney. I appreciate that. So tonight we do not have any patron comments. So we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. And I will now take a motion to approve the consent agenda, and please list all the items under there.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda for tonight, January 21st. A, approval of minutes for January 7th. B, approval of hire and termination reports. C, approval of student overnight travel. D, approval of purchasing bids. E, approval of December financial reports. F, approval of LEA specific licenses and endorsements. G, approval of administrative appointments. And H, approval of Brighton High School early out on April 24th, 2025.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion to the motion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, the next item on the agenda is new business, and it's the Canyon School District 2023-2024 employee survey results. And Dr. Laura Tuesday Heathfield, Program Evaluator, will be presenting this.
Thank you very much, and good evening. I was asked to present these results. Some of you on the board have already heard them as part of the Human-Centered Supports Committee, but I'll go through pretty briefly about the survey results from last year. So those of you who are new to the board, welcome. We send out a satisfaction survey to our employees each year. We've been doing it with our licensed educators since 2015-16 school year.
Excuse me, Laura, can you move the microphone just
Yes.
closer? Like,
Sorry,
it's
I do
little
have a
bit hard
mask
to
on,
hear.
so it's a little hard.
Yeah, thank you.
We send it out to our licensed educators, which we've been doing for the past 10 years, 9 years. With our administrators and our education support professionals, we've been doing it. This is our second year of sending a similar survey. The items align with the survey that we've been sending to licensed educators. The surveys are sent via district email with about a 2-week window to respond, and reminders are sent in that window. They are like-related items on each of the surveys for each of the types of employees. They vary a little bit in terms of number depending on whether a particular item applies to them or not. For example, there's 25 items for contracted ESPs, but only 24 because there's no benefits question for hourly ESPs. They cover the general areas of general satisfaction, expectations, professional growth, value, and a sense of belonging and well-being. And these somewhat mirror the types of items that are sent out yearly or pretty regularly, I don't know about yearly, but regularly by the Gallup poll that demonstrates that if your employees are happy, they're going to stay with you. There are also 2 open response items that we include. One, what do you enjoy most about working in Canyons? And then what single change would you like to have, would have the most positive effect on your overall satisfaction? So any questions before I jump in? Okay. So I'm going to start with the educator satisfaction survey. It's always important to look at our reliability and response rate to make sure that we're getting a good representation of our employees. Overall reliability was excellent at 93%, and we got a good response rate of 47% of our licensed educators, so a little over 1,000. This is the one question that asked about overall satisfaction across years. And for those of you on the board, you'll recall that we were concerned about this dip that we had in the 2021 and 21-22 school year. The good news is we've seen a 10% gain across the last 2 years, so we're getting back up to approaching our high point back in 2019-20. And that's reflected in this little bar graph at the top. So overall, we saw a slight increase in overall satisfaction from last year. We're also celebrating the 2-year upward trend in overall satisfaction. Additionally, we saw an increase in satisfaction on 22 of the remaining 28 items, but we do have 6 items that had less than 50% of our respondents responding positively. So what I plan to do is go through each of those areas and just highlight a few things, celebrations as well as areas of concern. So in the area of general satisfaction, we did see gains in recommending a teaching job at Canyons or recommending a teaching job to a friend, but we did see a decrease in satisfaction with the benefits package as well as salary. And salary and recommending a teaching job are 2 of the ones that fell below 60%. And just to remind you that the percentages represent the proportion of respondents that responded agree or strongly agree to that item. In the area of expectations, celebration is, we had a pretty substantial increase in the percentage of licensed educators who feel physically safe in their school or department. It was already high, but it is even higher this year. We did see a low rating, which is not a surprise because it's been this low for a long time, that the expectations of teachers in canyons are realistic. Similarly, a very low percentage, extremely low percentage, thought the expectations of teachers nationwide were realistic. And I guess the good news about that is that we're above what they feel is happening nationwide. Kind of over on the left, I've indicated in the past, the board has asked, are there differences between elementary and secondary educators? And there were 2 items in this section that had a significant difference. Being physically safe, more elementary educators felt physically safe at their school or department than secondary, but both were very high. And then at the bottom, in terms of nationwide expectations, secondary teachers had a little bit higher rate than elementary teachers, but both were quite low. In the area of professional growth, we saw a substantial increase in receiving training to know how to respond to an emergency, and a slight increase in I've received adequate training to be able to manage behaviors. And I know that's been a focus of concern over the last couple of years. Similarly, there is a below 60% satisfaction rate with receiving adequate training and support in managing behaviors. Again, over on the left, there are several items that had a significant difference. And when I say it's significant difference, it was statistically significant, but not by many percentage points. So I don't know if it's clinically significant, but it is statistically significant. And 3 of those, the elementary respondents, were higher than the secondary, and the third one, the secondary, was higher than elementary. In terms of feeling valued, there were several items that were below 50% satisfaction rate. Speaking with a district administrator, and this potentially is low because there was a large percentage of respondents who had no opinion. It was about 1/3 of respondents. So my guess is they never had a need to contact anybody at the central office. Receiving adequate recognition continues to be a concern because it's below 50%, but it did increase slightly this year compared to last year. And similarly, being valued by the Canyons Board of Education, by you all, is low, but there is a slight increase from last year. And then another good celebration is that in the sense of feeling that they belong in their school or department, or their overall well-being, was all rated very high and even higher than it was last year. So these are the open-ended questions. What do you enjoy most about working in canyons? And what single change would have the most positive impact? What we did is look for most prominent themes. As you can imagine, with over 1,000 respondents, it's a little overwhelming to read every single one. But the 3 most prominent themes in terms of enjoying working at canyons included having a positive work environment or relationships with their colleagues, the impact that they are having on students, and professional learning opportunities that are available to them. In terms of changes that would have an impact, the first one was student behavior and discipline. Second is pay and/or benefits. And the third is reducing workload or expectations. Any questions before we move on to the next group? Or comments?
Are there any questions right now? We want to wait till the end to discuss. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Thank you.
The second survey is the Administrator Satisfaction Survey. And as I mentioned last year, the year before last year was the first year we sent that one out. Again, excellent overall reliability and a good response rate of 63%. Slight increase again from last year in terms of overall satisfaction. A large majority of our administrators are satisfied with their employment. More than half of the Likert items were positively endorsed by over 80% of our responding administrators. But we did have 3 items that had less than 50% of positive response. General satisfaction, we saw an increase in recommending an administrative job at Canyons, but that was already very high. And a slight decrease in salary, satisfaction with salary, and an even stronger decrease in benefits satisfaction. Expectations, similar to our licensed educators. Administrators believe that the expectations in Canyons are not necessarily realistic, and even more so nationally. The great news, I think, is the other 3 items in that they feel supported by their supervisors, they feel safe in their current position, and they know what's expected of them. In terms of professional growth, the strength, again, similar to educators, they believe that they've received adequate training and support to be able to fulfill the functions of their position. And then there was a slight decrease in receiving encouragement for professional growth and having sufficient opportunities for professional development. In terms of value, there was a pretty substantial increase in feeling valued by their community, but a decrease in receiving adequate recognition for their work, and again, feeling valued by the Board of Education. And then again, similar to our educators, there is a strong satisfaction with their sense of belonging and well-being, but it is decreased from last year in all 4 items. And then the 2 open-ended questions administrators enjoy most about working in Canyons is the supportive work environment, that the district has systems and processes in place, and that they have positive relationships with their colleagues. In terms of single change that would impact their overall satisfaction, workload, pay and benefits, and support from district leadership. And I should add in the final reports that you received, I did give some examples of what they meant by those themes to help you understand their concerns. In terms of ESPs, we have 2 surveys that we send out, one to contracted ESPs and one to hourly. Both had overall reliability that was excellent. We had a 40% response rate with our contracted ESPs, but only 30% of our hourly. So the caveat is we should probably consider the hourly ESP survey results with a bit of caution, because that is a pretty low response rate. Not horribly low, but it's low in comparison to our other employee groups. Similarly, their overall satisfaction increased slightly from last year, and both are high. So a large majority of them are satisfied with their employment. And I mentioned the interpreting survey results with some caution because of that low response rate for hourly ESPs. So what I've done is kind of put the contracted ESP responses next to the hourly so that you can kind of, they're fairly similar, but there are some differences. I think on the positive side, both had fairly high satisfaction with recommending a job to a friend or relative in Canyons. And then the concern obviously is that they are not very satisfied with the salary. And that decreased for hourly, but increased for contract employees. In terms of expectations, all of these are fairly high and all of these increased from last year, so that's a good sign as well. Professional growth, I think both had a substantial increase in the item receiving adequate training to know how to respond in an emergency. And then they both had a below 60% satisfaction rate with receiving encouragement for professional growth. And then in terms of feeling valued, on the positive end, they was very high and had a pretty substantial increase from last year in terms of having opportunities to provide their opinion within their school or department. And then again, lower items were receiving adequate recognition for their work, particularly among contract employees, and then feeling valued by the Board of Education. And then similar to our other two employee groups, high rates of satisfaction with belonging and well-being, and some pretty substantial increases from last year. And then their open-ended responses. What they enjoy most is interacting and impacting our students, having supportive collegial relationships, and having a flexible work schedule. The single change that would impact their overall satisfaction included increased pay, professional growth opportunities, and receiving recognition or appreciation for their work. And just for a summary, we had adequate to good response rates across employee groups except for hourly ESPs. Overall satisfaction increased slightly from last year across all three employee groups. Satisfaction level increased from last year on the majority of survey items for both licensed educators and ESPs. And then from those Likert items, there were some differences in terms of primary areas of dissatisfaction. For licensed educators, it was too high of expectations, not enough recognition, and low salary. For administrators, it was similar in terms of expectations and recognition, and not enough professional learning opportunities. For ESPs, it was salaries, being encouraged to grow professionally. And then for contracted, it was recognition, and for hourly, it was professional learning opportunities. So I just offered some considerations, looking at those areas of high satisfaction. Can they be capitalized on to address some of the areas of dissatisfaction? What are some action steps that would be essentially most bang for your buck? And then how can any strategies that are implemented be communicated broadly so that employees do know that their concerns are being addressed? I think I mentioned before that some of the responses say things like, I don't think anybody ever reads these. I don't know why I fill it out. So knowing that their voices are heard, I think, is important. And then lastly, we might want to think about how we can get better participation among our hourly ESPs, since that was the lowest response rate. So questions, comments?
Okay, thank you, Laura. Board, are there any questions that you have for her? Mrs. Pedersen.
Button. I don't know if this is a specific question as much as I'm asking you an opinion. Obviously, the board is not reaching the needs of all of our employee groups. Is it of your opinion that because of the distance between those groups and ourselves and our interactions with them, that that would be a factor that contributes to the lower response, that we aren't meeting their needs?
I think that contributes to it, certainly. But some of the comments indicated that, for example, that they feel like there's certain groups, the louder groups get attention than those that don't scream the loudest. So I think there's some other factors too that play into it. Yep.
I appreciate that.
Okay, any other questions, board? Because go ahead.
Just a quick,
Katie.
just a quick question. Was this a 5-point Likert scale?
5-point Likert scale, strongly agree, agree, no opinion, disagree, strongly disagree. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then I think the board, I think we'd want to just have a discussion, so.
Okay.
I don't know if you need to stand there, but if we have further questions, we can have you come back up.
Okay.
So,
Great.
so board, our strategic plan focus group, human-centered supports, we reviewed this data, and then that's why we brought it back to the full board. But we did have a few ideas in our committee, which I kind of want to pass on to the board before we start having a discussion for your consideration. So the first one, Paula Logan had, and she wondered if we should recognize like an ESP group every month. That was her idea, recognize them at board meeting. And I do think, didn't we just recognize some people tonight, the fixers? So I don't know if we're already implementing that plan, but that was her idea. And then also when I was talking to Mr. Haney about this, he had an idea. So I'm wondering, I don't know if you can come up again, Jeff, sorry, with your crutch. Yeah, if you could come up and just tell the board your idea also for us to consider. Thank you.
So as we examined the results of the employee satisfaction survey, we looked at ways that we could connect with the employees who either didn't respond to the survey or gave us the responses, how they really felt. And we want to directly address some of these issues by providing information to them about the ways that the Board of Education in particular is discussing issues that they bring up either through the superintendent's listening tour, or they provide us in an email, or feedback in any other way. So plans are being made to create and send a postcard monthly to all the employee groups licensed in ESP to provide insight about the decisions and discussions of the Board of Education. And this directly affects them, meaning the decisions you all make affect their workplace environment. And sometimes the water doesn't get to the end of the road because a significant group of our employees have jobs that take them away from laptops. So they're not at their laptops every single day and seeing what comes across in their email. We have a large group of employees who don't check their email often, so they may not be receiving the information we're providing to them. So we want to do a hard copy direct mail campaign monthly that would provide information to our employees about the decisions and the actions of the Board of Education that directly address their concerns. You can see here a draft of one of the postcards that we would put together on behalf of the board. Here, we would identify the items of what the Board of Education is doing to work for the employees. You can see there's some of the dummy text, but it really does reflect items that they may need to know as employees of the Canyon School District. We would propose on this card to also feature employees. So you'll see here that we have put on the draft version of the postcard a spotlight on Natalie Meyer, who we announced tonight is the National Girls Tennis Coach of the Year. That's a feather in the cap of Canyon School District to have that quality of a coach and an educator for Canyon School District. But then we also very easily could have profiled our fixers, our plumbers, our HVAC technicians, and our electricians who worked so hard on the water line breaks and the power outage at Jordan High School. We also can provide information to them about how they can remain connected. This could touch all parts of an employee's workplace and get information to the people who don't necessarily look at their emails every day. We would start this direct mail this month. Also, we would continue with the email updates for our employees who do remain connected to information about their workplace here by looking at information that's provided to them through our email system. And also, we have indicated to the board that we'll start working in more information about board members, their representation of employees and their constituents, and how their discussions and decisions here during board meeting and in the course of your duties, how that is affecting how the district is running. Things like the extra planning time, that was a board decision. We want to make sure our employees know the board helped facilitate that. There are many other things that have come out of all of our feedback forums that we've created, such as the superintendent's listening tour, that the administration has then brought to the board. The board's then made the decision, and it's directly benefited the employees. We want to make sure that our employees are aware of the work that you've done for them. So those are the three things that we've put together as possibilities to get information to our employees about the board's good work.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Are there any questions about his presentation? Oh, yes, Karen.
Not necessarily to you. I want to compliment you on moving forward on some suggestions that were made right after our human-centered support conversation. And I passed to the board a list of some of my concerns and possible solutions, and you did a better version of it because you're a communications person. But anyway, communications would better identify specific decisions made by the board versus administration, because sometimes I think they mix the two. In fact, I know they mix the two. If administration doesn't want to take the heat or they're not really sure where it came from, they always say it's the Board of Education. Whether we made that decision or not, it doesn't matter. We're the scapegoats, and that's fine. But I don't know that it's accurate. So thank you. I appreciate what you have done. This is great. I also have some other items I want to discuss along this topic, but it's not a question.
Okay.
Okay, is there anything else for Jeff? Because we won't make him stand there with his leg.
Okay. And if you have any feedback on the draft, now keep in mind, it's just a concept. It was very quickly put together. But if you have any offline, please send me just your feedback. And of course, it will be refined as we go. But please send that feedback to me on the draft and suggestions on how we can streamline this information to our employees.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
you.
Yeah, I personally love the idea because I do think there's just so much distance between the board and our employees, and they don't know sometimes what we're doing. So just more information, I think, will be better. Okay, I think Mrs. Oaks has something,
That's
then
fine.
Karen again.
So yeah, I want to reiterate kind of what Karen said. Over the last 6 years that I've been doing this, I've lost count how many times I've had faculty members or sometimes even school admin come to me and say, "Why did you make this decision?" And I'm like, I have no idea what you're even talking about. Like, they've been told that the board has made a certain call on something, and literally it's completely new to me. So I don't know how to effectively address that other than, some of what Jeff was suggesting, but I do think that that's kind of a common issue, so.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, or should we, Mrs. Nybar, and then we'll go back to Karen.
Okay, I super appreciate what Jeff presented. I think that's great. I know Karen has probably a few things. Yes. So I have a few things that I wanted to highlight. So first, just looking at our part, right? How people feel supported. It was very awesome, and I'd like to celebrate the fact that our teachers, we grew +2%, that they're feeling valued and supported by us. I noticed that the ESPs, it's -7%. And looking at last year's negotiations with pay and salary, it'd be really interesting to do a follow-up question because people feel valued in two different ways, how they're compensated in pay, and then how we communicate to them of how appreciative we are of their value, right? And it's different for different people. And I think it's very important for us to understand, where is this coming from? Because it was -7 and then administrators was -3, but teachers was +2. The one thing I do know is in the last 4 years, we have raised teachers' salaries. It seems to be directly linked to compensation. So I think it'd be really good to have follow-up questions. How are you feeling valued or not valued, and have some open-ended response? Because I would really like to know how, so we can better address that. Some of those things we have more latitude that way than others, right? The other thing that I wanted to just celebrate for a moment as a board is I really loved the growth of being valued by their community plus 8%. That's pretty awesome. And that is a thank you to our wonderful community, right? That appreciates and supports. I also wanted just to highlight that the teachers said plus 7% when they're feeling overwhelmed that administrators are helping them. So hats off to our administrators. That's an amazing growth. I think having sat on the EMT committee the last few years, the fact that we had a plus 7%, that teachers and faculty, Jeff, I know he's the director of that committee. I was like, yes, like plus 7% that they understand how to respond in a state of emergency. That is a huge jump. And that is something that we addressed as a committee. Does everyone in the building understand and know what the plan is? So that's pretty awesome. The supervisor support plus 12%, that's amazing. Plus 12% with your local supervisor. So I just wanted to celebrate that. A few things that I feel like need more of our direct attention was also the administrators are saying that there are not realistic expectations for them. That's minus 7%. And I think that's something that as a board, we've talked about before in different study sessions and maybe committee work. But I think what's required of our administrators today is considerably growing, especially with the level of communication between parents and themselves and how much they're inundated with needing to respond and that their list of to-dos is so long. I know meeting with my administrators, another thing that has been mentioned is how many times we're pulling them out of their building for different meetings. And some of the meetings, of course, are so crucial and so vital, but making a cognizant effort to think about how many times we're pulling them out of their building. I think we need to do a deeper dive on why the administrator, what can we do on our end, right? So that with those expectations. So that's a takeaway that I would love to discuss as a board. And then the other thing that I really noticed was professional development went down by 6% with us providing opportunity. So I feel like, I don't know the best way but I feel like some of these really big glaring ones, I feel like we need to be discussing as a board. Obviously, it's going to be in human-centered supports and then hopefully brought back to us. Is that the plan with some of these bigger ones? Because I would love to have human-centered supports come back to us with those.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dolly.
Thank you, and thank you for doing this because this is very vital information. It would definitely be nice to get some more specific feedback on items and get some suggestions from our community, our staff, as to how to improve in some of these areas. Because certainly there's some start call outs for the board that we've got some work to do, and just to help people feel involved. And so maybe a suggestion even is figure out a way that there's a board specific recognition program that we're in the schools recognizing teachers, staff, along those lines. And then I noticed that also that PD and some of these things I think are communication issues, communicating to our ESPs about what PD opportunities they have and talking to our different contract groups, even our administrators. Here's opportunities you have, conferences, stuff in-house, stuff in-state, and compiling that all into one place might be helpful for them.
Mrs. Pedersen.
Okay, I passed out this paper because after our human-centered supports meeting, I called Amber and I was really upset. And not that I didn't think that our teachers and our administrators understood us, but I think that we could do a better job. And so I knew that we needed to talk about making sure our culture is correct and that we're doing the right kinds of things when it comes to making decisions that affect our employees. The one that concerned me the very most was, and that's what I gave you a copy of, is the district leadership comments. And they kind of tie in together. It says, I need the board and superintendent to trust administrators to make decisions that are best for our schools. This has not been true for a few years. The Board of Education continues to micromanage all aspects of our district, which has eroded trust, efficiency, and effectiveness. Admin are undermined and demoralized on a routine basis as their knowledge and expertise are blatantly disregarded by the Board of Education. Better relationships with the Board of Education, a feeling of care and respect for the work the administrators do every day. There is no feeling of support or trust that comes from the Board of Administrators. Those three kind of tie in together. Let me go with the last two. The Board of Education needs to listen to teachers and administrators as much as they listen to parents. I feel that often the loudest and most privileged parent voices get heard, often to the detriment of other students and staff. Feeling supported by our school board and not having to worry about public blindsided attacks when they don't agree with the recommendations of educators. Those are very specific. And I really feel very strongly that we need to create an atmosphere of trust. I'm going to use that word a lot this year. This is kind of my key word. You know how you pick a word for the year? That's my word, trust. I honestly think we have the best educators and best administrators in the district. And sometimes when they come up and they'll present from their committees or share even from their, well, not so much from their schools, but when they present from their committees, we ask 1.5 million detailed questions, which would be great, but I don't know that they are the people that we need to ask. Sometimes we need to ask each other. We're on the board, on those committees. Maybe we could talk about that. I think we do micromanage. I will just say that. And when we talk about, well, my constituent said this and my constituent said that, we represent the employees as well. So I think we need to balance our point of view from what we're hearing from our community and parents, particularly with what we hear as we're talking to our educators and our principals. They need to know that we're really there. I guarantee all our principals don't feel this strongly. I guarantee it. Because usually you do get the ones that feel the strongest, and often it's in a negative way. But an example of micromanaging is when we almost had the principals, when we were doing the extra planning time for elementary teachers, is when we asked that we needed to see every school's plan. Okay, that's micromanaging. That's way overstepping. I know they'll work it out for their school. And if they don't, we'll hear about it and then we can address it. But I really feel strongly that we need to be careful that what we're asking them to provide for us isn't just interesting information for you, but that it really truly makes a difference in our decision. If it's a detail that you'd like to know more about, maybe you could make a meeting with that particular principal or administrator and have them explain it to you. But I don't know that we need to mandate it from the board. I think that's part of the problem, is that they feel like we're always asking them to do one more thing, that what they brought to us, and you've seen the detail that our presentations have in it, miles and miles and hours and hours and hours of information that they've compiled for us to see, and then we ask one more thing. I think that's pushing it over. Does that mean we never ask questions? Not at all. But I think we're not always asking them in the right time, in the right place. We see those presentations before they present them. If you see something, maybe it's been said, go to the person that's presenting and ask. Let's take advantage of that. I love what communications has proposed. We'll have to look and see which is the most effective. I think you want to probably try all three and then see what your response is, or we can anyway, somehow we'll find out what the response is. I don't know that you'd want to do all three all the time, but it could be a one week, one another week, or rotating, because too much information becomes no information because they stop looking. But I really like the things that you're looking at. And I would like us, maybe as a board, we were writing little notes to our teachers about things that we recognized that they were doing extra. I think we should also include the achievements and positive changes that the principals have made to change their schools. We have amazing cultures in a lot of our buildings, and we know that because we go into those buildings. We need to let our community know more of what our schools are doing. I mean, just brag. We need to blow that horn for them. They are so busy. And we're in there and we represent them as much as we represent our community. It's the whole process. And I just thought it was funny. I put crankshaft at the top because I thought that's kind of how it works out. And for those that don't have my paper, I'll read it. It says, here's how we'll deal with the school bus driver shortage. First, the school board will explore options, soliciting suggestions to help remedy things. Then they'll form a committee to consider the suggestions. And then the parents can hear the committee's recommendations. And then the board can meet to consider the parents' feedback on their recommendations. And by that time, school year will be over. I think we put too many layers. Some of that pressure that they're feeling, so I will take ownership. I think it comes from the board. I think some of it we're putting a little more emphasis on the details when we need to look at the intent. So I know that there's more things that you want to say, and I'm not trying to criticize, but I do want us to be aware that I don't know that we've always looked out at what we're saying and the effect that what we do is affecting our employees and our principals. Yeah. Oh, by the way, all your positive stuff was awesome.
Okay,
Holly.
you know what, Mr. Edel was next. So,
Sorry if mine was negative. Holly's was positive. Mine's a little more negative. And it was, I know that we're doing so well in those other areas. I think principals are the concern that I have the most of. So that's why I brought this forward for us to talk about. So I'm not really trying to judge us as much as bring up things that I think we need to be aware of.
yeah, we can
Thank you.
always get better. Okay, Mr. Edel?
So I feel like this conversation's neither positive nor negative. It's a look at, ourselves and our communication. Which, speaking of that, I did have some really good feedback that came from one of our educators, and some things that were said made me realize too that my choice of words matter. So constituent, for example, in the past I've used for every single person who communicates with me, but it might be seen differently, right? Some people might think of that as parent, whereas it could be an educator, it could be a community member, because in my mind, everyone matters, and I'm accountable to everyone. So anyway, some of the feedback that I got was, instead of flooding the same message 10 different ways, was to vary it. So for example, celebrate 10 different groups or people or board relationships in 10 different ways of communicating, rather than one celebration in 10 different forms of communication. And then as I thought about this, I think one of the hard things for me is when I go visit with teachers or staff or really anyone, it's hard for me to capture that or to tell that story because it feels really self-serving. But I guess if the story's never told, it never happened. And so a lot of my things that I'll publish are more likely to be students, because I feel less bad about sharing those stories, and the students are always really excited every time they're mentioned. But when I go and visit with teachers or cafeteria workers, or I like to wander around and talk to people in the district offices a lot too. I like to talk to people. And I guess for me, it's hard because, one, I don't know a good way to capture that. And then two, I think capturing that is outside of my comfort zone. And so I've got to work through that as well.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Holly?
I just wanted to, as a follow-up with what, that was really good. Thank you, Mr. Edel. I think as a follow-up, when I'm looking at really a lot of the larger negative percentage, it is in the administrator section. The professional development, that's not from the teachers, that's the administrators, the -6%. Expectations realistic, -7%, that's in the administrator section. It's not in the teacher or the ESP. Valued by the Board of Education was -3%. Rely on colleagues for support in my building, -6%. Know what is expected of me, -6%, and the benefits package, -7%. So their overall general satisfaction is pretty high. You know, looking at that, it was 85%. So that's pretty high, but it's just those specifics where because, you know, if you just glance through this document quickly and you're saying, wait, we're not providing professional development, but those PLCs, but this is for administrators that are saying that they're not receiving the professional development that they would like. So I think it would be really great just to get some more follow-up with the administrative group specifically. And then ESPs, it looks like it's minus 5% in professional development for them and minus 7% in valued by the Board of Education. So maybe some follow-up there, but I see those as two specific groups. Teachers, the only two negative percentages was salary and benefits, and they're less of a negative than, you know, they're like 2 and 3%. But anyways, I think I'm excited to see what the human-centered supports comes back with. I would love as that, I don't know if other board members would, but I would love, and Katie echoed it, I would really love to get a little more specific information and follow-up questions about this.
Okay, so thank you. Let me ask the superintendent at this point, because I do feel like some of the things need to be addressed. Well, most of the things need to be addressed by the administration, but is that the right committee to look at these things, or I don't know. So I just kind of want to get your input on if you have any ideas and just what the next step should be.
Yeah, thank you, President Schill. Just a couple of thoughts. First off, you know, I look at all the great things that the board has done over the last few years and the decisions, whether that's in compensation or leave or prep time or daycare. You know, there's so many things that I think we forget, frankly, and we just move on, and we, you know, probably could spend more time reflecting. But just thinking about kind of the spectrum and the paradigm that the board's in, and really any leadership role, and this comes down to kind of the governance piece and administration, right? So if you lay that over a spectrum, from one end, you really have this place of compliance and efficiency. Like, you are ultimately responsible for the district and the budget and meeting the needs of constituents, employees, parents, all the above, right? But then on the other side of that spectrum, you have true efficacy, or the empowering people to do their job, and that's more on a servant model, right? And in the center piece to that is where the sweet spot is, and that's relationships. So, you know, how you balance that, you're constantly in a push-pull between those targets, right? And I think, you know, one thing that we probably could do better across the board, including myself, is recognizing that we all move back and forth in that spectrum, you know, on different decisions. Sometimes I see administrators, including myself, really pushing the boundaries on governance, right? Like things like policy. Then other times, board members can go the other direction on more administrative responsibilities when it comes to this servant model, and maybe that's in curriculum or human resources or whatever falls more on the administration side. But at least I think us having ongoing conversations just about in our committee work about recognizing where those are at, so that, you know, we have a kind of a cognizance that where does that lie? Because many times, you know, with all the issues that we deal with, they're very emotionally charged, right? So we come at it with all the emotions and everything that's in our backpack and our history to the table. And frankly, you think about public education, most people, you know, in the world have background in public education. Most people in the world don't have a background in law or in medicine or in whatever, but we're all experts in public education. And that comes to play, right? That bears out, whether it's the legislature or our own feelings about, you know, policy or whatever it is that we're working on. So I think more than anything, just recognizing that and continuing to develop that, and then just, you know, focusing on relationships. It really is one person at a time, and one administrator at a time, one teacher at a time. And I see you all out, you know, whether it's listening tour or visiting schools, it is hard to capture that. But those are, you know, that's the bank of trust, right? And then when you have to pull credit from that to make a hard decision that may affect people, most of the time you are going to make people unhappy no matter what the decision is. It's kind of like calling a snow day. When Leon and I and Jeff and McKay are up at 4 a.m., I know we're going to be dead wrong no matter what. I'm going to get emails at about 7 a.m. Why did you call the day, or why did you keep us in school, right? So recognizing that you got to give yourself some grace too, that the further you get away, you know, from the classroom, and that's just how our system of democracy works. And, you know, I think there's a lot of beauty in that too, about just the wheels turn that way. And so I think that's important too. Anyway, those are just some comments.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. So I think, should we ask human-centered support, since they already did review the data, to maybe like come up with a few suggestions or recommendations? Oh yeah, Dr. McGill is here. Perfect. Thank you for staying. Okay, let's move forward with that. And I think we all like the communications idea, because I do think communications is a part of it. So that will help. So thank you, Jeff. And then thank you, Laura, again for being here. And so Laura did send us in December. I think she sent the full board all the comments, right? So I don't know if you two new board members do you want her to send you all the comments? Okay, could you do that to those two so they have all the information? Okay, thank you, board. Mrs. Nybar?
One thought, how does the board feel about just sending a letter of thank you to our administrators for that plus 7%? Like teachers are saying from this year to last year, it's a plus 7% that their administrators are helping them when they're feeling overwhelmed. I would love to do a little celebration for the administrators, have a letter, and have us as the Board of Education send something as a thank you and congratulations, because I think that's something to celebrate.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Everyone's nodding, so I believe we're all good with that. Okay,
Okay.
thank you. There is when is Administrators Month? Is that coming up or not for a while, you guys?
It's October, I think.
Okay, well, let's do the letter right now then. Yeah.
Yeah,
And will you send a draft to the board? Yeah, that'd be great.
that'd be awesome.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that idea. That's great. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is just staff comments. So Superintendent, do you have any report?
Not tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wilcox?
Just quickly, as we talk about our strategic plan and the focus groups, last week, the Legislative Auditor General, that's the ones who represent the legislature, are putting together a best practices handbook for school districts and charter schools. They called me. We spent about an hour on a Zoom call going over how we developed our strategic plan and how we're conducting the focus groups ongoing. They were very impressed with that. They want to include that somewhat as an example for other LEAs moving forward. So it has gotten their attention. We've commented that on when other districts have gone through their audit process with them. So I just wanted to bring that out, that it's going to be part of their best practices moving forward with developing the plan, getting the focus groups who help develop the plan, and then keep the plan a living document as we've tried to do. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. We will start with Mrs. Pedersen tonight for board comments.
I was excited to have the opportunity that we have each year to go to the Utah School Boards Association conference. Many people may not know, but school boards also have professional development, and that is provided in our association. And they train us from everything from law to current top issues, and it's fun to rub shoulders with educators, leaders of educators, all the school boards from all over the state. I did get to attend one of my workshops, or one of the courses that I attend was presented by Alpine District Superintendent. I didn't write down his name, sorry, but he had a topic called Live and Lead Better. And it was it ties right into what we've been talking about, because his presentation is how superintendents and support the school board and leadership, and then I mean, how we work together as a group. And there, his emphasis was on, if you want to improve a school, then if you want school improvement, then you put your emphasis on people, because teachers directly affect student learning, school leaders indirectly affect student learning, and principals affect teacher efficiency, and district leaders directly affect school leaders. So the chain, we all affect one another, and it boiled down to what their district is doing to try and build relationships, which is what Rick was just talking about, with their principals. And then the principals has been sharing that information with their teachers. I thought one of the funnest activities, they're basing this on a book by Eric Polterat, Learned Excellence. And what he was saying is that we need to build on the strengths of our leaders and not always look at their deficits. I mean, it's so much easier. Human nature always looks at the negatives, and that we're trying to build on the strengths. And he was trying to figure out, how can we bring more joy to the job for everyone? So they were trying to be more proactive, and I thought one of the cool things they do, and they meet once a month, but they actually had their principals give 3 references as if they were going to get a job, but could tell, that would write them a letter about what they do well. And they had at least 3, sometimes more people. They sent them out, they actually sent that request to their references and brought them back, and then shared them at a principals meeting with the principals. We always are telling them what else they need to do to get better. And what was really fun about this is that they had heard, what are the strengths that other people see in them? Now, I've done this with my kids in class, but do we do it with the adults? And then they gave them a Venn diagram, and they listed all the qualities that they say about themselves, and they had them fill that in first before they read the letter. And then they had them fill in what they had said that they didn't say, and then what they had in common. So they did a little Venn diagram. And then they were asked to choose something that they're good at, that they wanted to get even better at. That when they were choosing professional development, and when they were meeting with their principals for goals, it wasn't on a weakness, it was on a strength. What would you like to be even better at? What would you like to be the expert at? And that just the attitude changed a lot of the perception of the principals, and then it filtered down to their teachers. So his comment is that we don't rise to our goals, we settle to our systems. And so I thought it was really interesting that their process was to instill hope and joy in their principals. And I thought exactly what Dr. Robbins had said, we need to really work on those relationships with our principals. And so that was a fun, I really enjoyed what I was able to take out of that class. And then I went to another one that was called Teacher Believed in Me. And that was talking about how we can avoid suicide. It was interesting how many had different relationship basis. They were a lot of positivity about what we can do to bring out the good, because the world is so good at telling us about the negative. So I've really enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to, it's that season again. I have tickets already to go see Albion's Singing in the Rain. Albion Middle is putting that on this weekend. And then Hillcrest is doing a dual cast. One night they're doing boys, all boy cast doing Lord of the Flies, no rings, flies. Lord of the Flies, and then they're doing an all girl cast. And then the contrast between the two, which is really kind of amazing. So I'm going to the all girl cast performance, and I think it'll be really fun. So I appreciate the opportunities that our schools provide for us and our community to be exposed to great literature, and then to offer opportunities to learn from it. So I'm looking forward to that. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dolly.
Thank you, and I appreciate the survey results. There's a quote that my daughter shared with me, my college-age daughter. It says, "Feedback is just feedback. It's neither good nor bad. It's an opportunity to improve." And talking about Karen's the same presentation, they said the degree to which a person can grow is directly proportional to the amount of truth they can accept about themselves without running away. So we appreciate the feedback and using it for an opportunity to improve that we can better support our Canyons community. I'm thankful for our superintendent and going out with a listening tour, the opportunity to meet with our faculty and staff in the district and to learn from them. And please, share us all the feedback you have, because we're looking for opportunities to improve. And happy birthday to our superintendent this week.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Oakes.
Okay, so thank you so much. I echo what Karen said about USBA, that it was a great opportunity to learn some more. I want to congratulate all the teachers and students for, as of today, officially starting the second half of the school year. We're now on the downhill slide, everyone. So my kids were kind of excited about that. I also enjoyed the superintendent listening tours. I got to go to Sunrise Elementaries and Altera Elementaries. I really love that Superintendent Robbins has been doing that. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for our teachers to be able to give us very specific feedback and share their concerns in a very comfortable forum. The Student Advisory Council last week was awesome. I really shared how open and candid the kids were with us about subjects relating to project-based learning and hands-on learning, as well as safety, whether or not they feel safe and why not, what areas we could improve. I also enjoyed being able to have a town hall meeting last week at Indian Hills Middle School and had a number of parents from that community come and share concerns with me and questions, specifically the most salient of which was regarding Chinese immersion in the Lone Peak and Indian Hills and Alta feeder systems. And we can discuss some of that more later, but that was something that was of note. I'd like to, a couple requests that I just wanted to make while we're here as a group. And I don't know if we want to kind of siphon these off to various committees. But one of the feedback pieces that we got on the listening tour, and I've heard this from multiple BTS teachers, the Beverly Taylor Sorensen teachers, that we promised them in the fall a survey about how things are going with the new elementary schedule. And they're wondering what's happening with that. And so I would like to formally request that that happens. I don't know if that goes through high quality learning or, I don't know, probably high quality learning.
Just to comment on that, Amanda, I shared that with Amber and Alice and Sally, and they emailed me back, and they're working on that right now.
Great,
So
that's
that's
awesome. Okay, and then the other thing I've just been thinking tonight, in light of so many of the changes that have happened and what things are making a positive difference, what aren't, I'm interested in knowing and maybe getting a report on the success thus far of the early out schedule that we have with the high schools and those IPLCs. Do we see that making a difference? Like, what has helped, what hasn't? Like, where do we, is the needle moving, or if not, what do we need to do to change that? So those are two of the salient thoughts I have this evening. And I also just want to throw a shout out. This coming Friday is the Battle of the Bands at Corner Canyon High School. And they're normally happy if they get 5 or 6, they have 11. So they're starting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but they have a lot of really eager and excited kids. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever gone to any of the Battle of the Bands. It's usually run by the PTSA. They are a kick in the pants. They're so much fun. So the kids all each band has to do one cover, and they have to come up with one original number. And then the kids go on to regions, and then there's a state competition. And it's a big deal, and they talk about it for years after. It's really fun. And then on January 30th, for the first time ever, our district will have a Lunar New Year celebration. It's happening at Corner Canyon at 6 p.m. There's going to be performances from all of our Chinese immersion elementary schools. Actually, I don't think Ridgecrest Elementary is performing, but they are coming. And we have representation from Indian Hills Middle School, Draper Park Middle, I think some kids from Brighton High School, and definitely from Corner Canyon. Selfishly, just full disclosure, my daughter decided to do this. She started the Chinese club at Corner Canyon this last year and realized that all of the different school districts around us, including Provo, Jordan School District, Alpine School District, a number of different school districts, they have these huge Lunar New Year celebrations, and we've never had one. So she started small, and it just snowballed from there. Kirsten is over there smiling because she's been really helpful. And we have representation from some of our various partners around the state that are going to come and share opportunities that these kids can enjoy as a result of their language proficiency. So I would encourage anyone who's associated with the program or not, just come and celebrate the new year. It'll be a lot of fun, and the kids get really excited. They're adorable when they get up there. Some of them are doing kung fu, and others are singing. It's really cute. So anyway.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Edel.
So my highlights were that I got to visit with the Altaview Elementary Student Council. And you have not seen true excitement until you've heard that it's about time to start Penny Wars. Yeah, they were pretty thrilled with that. They were doing a really fun activity to help recognize the teachers and some of the great things that they do, and it was fun to meet with them. I also met with the Jordan High School student body officers, and that was definitely the highlight of some of the visits I've had. And as soon as we got past that, wall of ice that they had at the beginning where they don't want to say anything, the floodgates opened, and we had a great discussion. And I still need to continue to go through some of my notes that I took from that. But I did promise that I would bring forward one of their items, which is that they said that they would really love to have the Friday schedule every day. They made some good points to argue for that too. Anyway, I appreciate our students for talking to me. I appreciate the educators that we have over those programs, and the time that they were able to carve out for that. It's nice for me to be able to meet with the students, and then it's also nice for me to have some opportunities to meet with some of our school staff before and after those happen as well. I enjoy being out in our schools, and will continue to do so. And that's all I've got for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lewis.
All right. So I've been in this office for about 2 weeks, which is a little bit weird to think about. It's gone by super fast. So my highlights over the last couple of weeks, obviously going to USBA, that was super informative, super awesome. Meeting with meeting with school board members from across the state, and even state school board members. That was super cool. This morning I was invited to tour Mid-Valley Elementary School. I learned about their food and nutrition rules, which is you can't bring food into the school, and apparently it's really helped with the culture there. It's really been productive in keeping peanut allergies out and just keeping an inclusive, healthy environment. That's something I got to learn about today, as well as the amazing dual language immersion program at Mid-Valley. I got to sit in on one of their Spanish-speaking classrooms, and it was incredible. I was even joking to the person who's walking me around, I need to sit in on more of these classes because I do not know how to speak Spanish. So that's something I might be doing. I also got to sit in on the student advisory committee. That was incredible. I loved it. There's been many notes been made about how young I am. Obviously, that's the truth. I talk about often, I like to bring student perspective to the board. I can only do that if I can remain connected to the student body, because the further I go from being a graduate, the less of a student I am. So I really appreciated that opportunity. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Nybar.
Well, first off, I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Robbins. In our study session, as we were kind of going back in time, he was talking about 2020, and he was brought to the district about 6 months before I was sworn in for the first time, and thinking about how far we've come and the direction he has helped lead us has been incredible. So thank you for your service to this district and for doing such a great job. And I also wanted to just say thank you to our administrators. Funny enough, that actually was my comments before I saw the survey. I was able to sit down with 2 of my administrators just this past week, and you know, you sit down with these amazing, for me it was 2 women, separately, but these amazing women. And as we sit and delve into the specifics of their school and what they're facing and their challenges and how they're rising to the occasion, I'm just in total awe, not only of what they do, but how they do it. It's incredible. And for those, half hour or so, I feel like I'm living in their shoes, and I'm just in awe at all that they accomplish during their day. I think as a board member, whenever we field phone calls of concerned parents, we get that little flavor, that little taste of what our administrators are going through every day, right? But they hear from so many. And so I'm very grateful to them and for their dedication to our schools. It was fun driving up to Willow Springs. They have the flags of all the different countries strung along their fence. It's also inside their building. Willow Springs is one of those elementary schools that has definitely had a lot of changes in the last few years as far as multi-language learners moving into the area and being part of the school community. And it's really neat to see how they are embracing that. They had a little diversity bingo talking about different cultures that the kids participated in December. That was super cool. And it's neat to see all the different ways they're integrating everyone. So super neat about that. Also, we have a little problem, which I think a lot of our schools do with drop-off, right? The traffic can kind of get all jammed up, and parents like to kind of stop right where it's easiest for their kid to run out of the car and maybe cause a little bit of that jam-packed situation in the parking lot. So Willow Springs has this new parking lot safety plan. And I was hearing about it, and the principal was saying, yeah, it's going to be great. Willie the Wildcat's going to be out there directing traffic. We're also going to have parents. And of course, an all-time cold spell, right? Monday morning, yesterday morning, and I'm seeing these amazing dedicated parents of our community in gloves and hats and scarves directing traffic. So how awesome is our community for doing that? In 2003, I walked into a little converted frat house that was converted into a church building in Cleveland, Ohio. And I walked in, and there was this little woman, very tiny little woman. Her name was Robbie Penman. She was 102 years old. She welcomed me to the area, and then she started telling me a little bit about her story. And her story was that she would send her sons with Martin Luther King Jr. out to doorsteps with pamphlets about love and unity, and that she would then have him over for dinner afterwards with her sons. And really amazing little lady, really amazing to hear firsthand experiences she had with him. I wanted to share a few quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. Probably one of my very favorites is, "Out of the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend." In our student advisory committee this last week, one thing that was brought up is these rogue Instagram accounts that are created by students, and how it really drags down the morale of the student body, and that kids are made fun of, and what started out to be humorous, maybe in good fun, it kind of goes over to this other area that's really inappropriate and not okay. I know that all of our high schools suffer from this problem, and I know the high school I represent also has had some really very tragic and sad things in that account, and it's very difficult for administrators to find out which kids are running it, and then what happens is it's shut down and then it's reopened with a new name with new kids running it. There's a quote by Martin Luther King that says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And I hope that we can teach our sons and our daughters and the kids and students in our community that it just takes a little bit of moral courage, if you see that going on, to go ahead and report it and to not participate, because it can really be damaging to your peers. I'm super grateful for the opportunity we have to go and support all these kids and all the different programs they have. I really enjoyed at Christmas going into Willow Springs and seeing their cute little Christmas concert. It's pretty amazing. Our cute music leader said, "Can you believe it? I've only met with some of these kids twice in December, and they knew those songs and their actions, and it was probably one of the highlights for me of December." We have so much opportunity to do so much good, and I look forward to helping our kids and our community see what a difference they can make in friendship and kindness. And thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Board, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. And first of all is, do we want to still continue to do thank you notes? So Jackson and Katie, we have been doing thank you notes that we get, and a lot of times they're the people we recognize during board meeting, during Canyon Strong. But I'm just wondering, do we want to continue that, board? Yes? Yes, okay. Okay, we do. So we will continue to work on that. I just wanted to make sure we wanted to do that. Also, I was just able to attend a couple of listening tours at Bella Vista and at Albion, and I just really appreciate the superintendent continuing to do those. And they are really informative to kind of get a feel on the ground of concerns our teachers have. So I would just recommend board members, if there's any way that you can go to them. It's really good and informative. And I just want to thank the board for our discussions tonight. I think it's been a great meeting, and it is before 9. I will call this meeting to a close. Thank you.